Sweet. Let's do this. What are we talking about today? I've got your goal in front of me. So the goal here is I've just like screenshotted it. You can see my screen. I'll be drawing and I'll be kind of narrating what you're talking about. So I don't need that. So we talked about here just getting that GPA to that 3.5 plus whilst maintaining club activities. But tell me more. What are we trying to do? What would you like to get from the next hour that we have together?
Okay, wait a minute. Mm, okay, I can see your screen. Well, so where can I start? Well, my first problem is I have overconfidence over my what I learn and things about that. Usually, what happens is I think I know enough, but there's a problem with my tasting skills and things like that. So, what happens when I go to the exam? I think I'm prepared, but I'm not prepared enough. So that's a
Mm,
problem I faced in first year of uni. Mm,
okay.
And another thing is, I like to think about, or I have various interests, so it's hard to keep consistent with things. Like I
Mm,
go from one topic to another, so academics kind of became my secondary or third choice among other things in
mm,
my life.
yeah.
So
Okay.
So I've been trying to build a learning system for 3 years now. Like I have some parts correct, but some things are still a bottleneck for me. So I'm kind of like currently I'm in industrial engineering, but I also have interest in psychology and stuff. So
Mm,
I'm
mm,
trying to like at one part I want to build my career in industrial engineering, but in another part I want to continue my hobbies, my
mm.
self studies and stuff like that. So I'm finding problems in balancing all of that.
I see. Yeah, cool. So there's been two things you've mentioned so far.
Mm,
Uh, if I had to
any
split
thoughts
it, we're
or
talking about, yeah, of course, many thoughts. So if I had to split it and make it easy, there's things happening now and there's things that we want to do in the future. So now and future. What's happening now is we've got our exams, we've got our tests, and what you've identified is that there's a mismatch between you feel confident before walking to the exam, but then you go to the exam and you realize, oh, this is not enough. I don't know enough. So that seems to be an issue that we're talking about, which is related to your current schooling and your current studies. And in the future, what's going to happen is, well, you're interested in many things, which is really good. You talked about industrial engineering, you talked about psychology as well, you talked about your own hobbies too. And it seems like you're wanting a bit of guidance to learn how to balance those, to approach those in a certain way as well. Just making sure that you don't get overwhelmed and you don't sacrifice unnecessarily and you're able to prioritize well. I see those to be the two main things you've mentioned to me. Any other problems that come to mind when we mention that?
not a strong problem, but there's a recent development. Like I'm interested in learning data analysis, but I started with Excel. I'm fine with that, but I want to go into Python and other things. I'm doing some Coursera courses with that, so I
Mm.
want to build a good routine for all of this.
Building a routine for data science. That's nice. So that adds into the list of interests that you have. We talked about industrial engineering, and then we talked about psychology. So data science is something else that you've added there too. And just balancing. So I've just written on my screen. There seem to be three main things that we're talking about right now. One of the first ones is exam confidence. There's like a false sense of confidence. Something that you mentioned here, which was really good, was potentially this illusion of learning. So you've already got some awareness behind that happening and how we can actually prevent that. Something else we are talking about here is balancing multiple passions, multiple hobbies, making sure that is working well too. Oops, I'll just wait 1 second.
Sorry
Rezwan, all
about
good?
that. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, yeah, no, that's all good. We're just talking about those three things there. So the first one was exam confidence. Try to tackle that. The second one here was balancing multiple hobbies, balancing life things, and balancing studies and multiple interests. And you also talked about career trajectory too, which we can touch on as well a little bit. But finally, we also talked about data science and building a routine for data science. So these three things, what do we think? Happy with these three things that we cover to be covered this next hour?
Yeah, that seems like the things that are on my mind right now and dealing with.
Okay. Nice. All right. So let's actually move into it. We're going to go into the first point here. But before I actually go into the first point, Rizwan, I want to provide you a way of thinking about your own learning system that I give to many people so they can self diagnose. That way
Yeah,
they become their own coach. Because today I'm your coach, right? Today we're going to be spending time. I'll be helping you out. But I also want you to be in a position where after this call, especially when we're not having conversations, you're still able to identify some of your problems and work on them slowly. So I'm going to introduce some terms to you. There's going to be six main terms that I'm going to introduce to you, and then we're going to dive into using this diagnostic process for these three problems that you've identified. So if I actually write this down in the yellow pen that I'm about to do, one of the first words that is very useful to think about is bottleneck. And
yeah,
obviously, this is not a term that you're like unfamiliar with, but basically, it's trying to identify. Well, if you have a bottle, and obviously there's like a bottleneck, right? Like, what's the constraint? What's the thing that's blocking us from achieving our goals? And that's useful to know because, again, most people have many problems, right? Including me when it comes to certain processes or learning, but we need to learn how to prioritize. So that's the first term I want to introduce to you. And there's five more terms that I want to introduce to you that you should be thinking about when it comes to your learning process. The first one here is deep processing.
mm,
So let me just write that. Second one here is retrieval practice. So we'll just put retrieval there. Third one here is self regulation. Fourth one here is self management. Here we go. And finally, last one here is going to be mindset. Before I dive into this, you might already be familiar with this because you're very active on the channel. But any thoughts with these five dimensions? So these are dimensions of learning that we call them.
well, if I were to get into a bit history, my first bottleneck was obviously mindset in my learning journey
Mm,
at first. But usually, I switch between self-management or self-regulation in the recent months. And one thing
yeah.
that I want to add about exam confidence is I mostly get stuck with procedural subjects like math or mechanics, things like that. But other conceptual subjects, I would say I do decent.
Okay, okay. So this is really good. So we've already identified a few things here, and it already seems like, again, mindset is a big thing usually. But the reason I give you these five terms is because it's useful to then tell yourself, okay, these are the five dimensions of learning. If I had to think about learning and categorize it into five broad processes or dimensions, this is what it'll be. So exam confidence is going to relate to three of these actually. But more specifically, it's going to relate to retrieval. That's going to be the main dimension that we'd have to investigate here. And one of the second ones here would actually be a little bit of self-regulation. So not a lot of deep processing when it comes to this part here. It is related, don't get me wrong, everything will be related here. But if I had to just think about one dimension when it comes to exam confidence, it's going to be retrieval practice. In terms of balancing and making a routine, I mean, that belongs under self-regulation, self-management. This is our calendars, task management, our procrastination management, our goal setting, our goal planning, all of that stuff. That's all going to be self-management, self-regulation. So what we're going to do is for the next kind of remainder of our call, we'll spend the first half talking about all these learning related problems. So the actual learning process, so deep processing and retrieval practice and a bit of self-regulation. And then towards the end of the conversation that we have together, we can talk more about the routines, self-regulation, self-management. That'll be a good split in my opinion. But let's dive into this because you've given me a bit more information. Let's talk about exam confidence, specifically for procedural topics like maths and mechanics. A very quick question that I have for you to start here is you've mentioned that before your exam, you're feeling confident, but when you walk into your exam, you don't feel confident at all. That can happen for many reasons. But why do you think that's happening? What's causing that illusion of learning?
Well, for starters, I understand the keywords and how they're related. I think I can do
Mm,
a better job of using them at various contexts. Like I know the concepts, but I don't stress test them. Like I, if I really know the concepts deep enough or the nuances. So that's the first. And
mm,
for procedural topics like math, where you have to mainly do practice, uh, practice is like a hard nut for me to crack. Like I don't
mm.
like practicing much. Like I do 1 hour a day, then I feel like it's enough, or
Okay.
I fried enough brain cells for 1 day, stuff like
I
that.
see, I see, I see. Okay, this is good. All right, so you've given me some good insight here. Now, when you go into your exams, obviously the reason the confidence reduces, you've identified a few things, and there's a few symptoms you've noticed. But if I had to hypothesize, what's happening is that there are certain ways of using the knowledge during the exam, and there's certain ways you need to manipulate it, apply the knowledge, apply these keywords in the exam. But potentially you've never like seen that way, or you never practice it that way in your study time. And when you sit this exam, and now it's like the first time you need to use, for example, like a specific calculus technique or a specific method of integration in a certain context, and you've never done this before, you kind of freeze. It's like, oh, I don't really. Is that what it looks like?
Kind of like, but it's also like when I try to prepare for my exams, there are like lots of math problems, but
Mm,
um, I think interleaving skill will be a good catch for me, but I don't usually know how to apply it properly. Like I don't want to
okay.
do the same problems because it feels really monotonous. And
Okay.
again, but
Yeah.
when I try
Yeah.
to do different stuff, I get overwhelmed, and that's
Okay.
where I get stuck.
Okay, so this is
So
so we're actually pointing on a different issue. This is good. I mean, you've already got some knowledge about retrieval practice and interleaving, which is really good. So you're saying that the reason, so you're doing it, it feels monotonous, and therefore, because it feels monotonous, you don't do it. So what if we made it feel fun? Do you think you'd be able to do it? Just putting it out there as an idea.
yeah, because the things I'm passionate about, I can read hours like stuff like that, like psychology. So if I found
Yeah.
doing math fun, like I find puzzle fun, like Sudoku and stuff, I can do those for hours.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really good. So you've already, because you've already hit the nail. You've already kind of got it on target, because it is going to be about that retrieval practice. So if I actually just had to write down, there's quite a few main reasons why people have a false sense of confidence. One of the first ones, and the easiest one, is just a lack of retrieval practice. So what this means is their exam demands a certain way of thinking, but they just don't do enough of that during their study time. They only do notes, they only do mind maps, they only do really basic practice problems. And what actually ends up happening is that they never expose themselves to the deeper and higher orders of interleaving and higher orders of thinking before the exam. And the exam ends up being the first time that they think that way. So that's a problem. For you, it's not like you don't know that. For you, it seems to be the second thing. It seems to be more of like a enjoyment related thing, and also like a cognitive load thing, and it being boring. That seems to be the main thing here right now. Would you say that's the main bottleneck preventing you from doing more retrieval practice?
Yeah, you could say that because I rely on intuition much more than logic.
Okay.
Or
Yeah. 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 Okay. So this is actually a bit better, because what I want to do, and I'll tell you, in this situation, this is actually a good spot to be in, because you've got insight into what needs to happen. You know that if there was retrieval practice happening a bit more consistently, if we were doing our spacing, like all these things would work. I'm going to actually ask you a question. What do you think you could do to try making it so the maths problems feel less boring, so you can do them, so less monotonous?
well, the go-to answer would be desirable difficulty, like where I am a little more difficult than that. The main thing is executing the problem that I face.
desirable difficulty being one thing. Anything else that you feel like you could do here before I diagnose a few more things?
Hmm, I could try doing problems that are related, like not only a topic, but a type of problem. Like I could create one which is a combination of multiple concepts.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That works as well. So that's really good. Um, Something I want to know about, this is going to be a quick diagnostic check of what your retrieval practice looks like. So you're saying that when it comes to something like mathematics, first of all, we're not doing enough retrieval practice. We're getting too little in. The second thing I want to know is, what are you doing in that retrieval practice? Is it only practice questions right now?
Yeah, practice question exercises, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. And I'm going to give you, I actually feel like you'd be able to answer this question. Out of the quality of the interleaving, how would you rate the quality? So what I mean by that, is it like, is it useful? Do you actually feel like it's allowing you to learn? Or is it like, nope, this is not very fun. It feels boring. It feels repetitive.
Well, interleaving feels interesting. Like I would rather do a practice question of one whole set rather than doing the math in the book where they
Yeah.
are provided in each. But once I do one set, it feels like I did kinda enough for the day.
Okay. Yeah. It feels like it's enough for the day, right? And all right. Okay. Yeah. It feels enough for the day, but obviously
And
there's a
pressure
few
of
things that yeah.
completing the syllabus is the pressure. I feel like when I need to complete this syllabus, that causes anxiety. So that's another thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's also that part as well. So there's a few hypotheses I have. There's a few things that I feel like could actually help you in this situation. Um, one of the first ones here, it's going to be using more interleaving strategies that go beyond just practice questions. So if I had to actually kind of split it, you can think about interleaving techniques like this. You've got procedural interleaving techniques and you've got declarative interleaving techniques. So very simply, based on the type of knowledge you're using and based on the way that you're doing it, you'll be engaging in it. A lot of people, they do too much of the procedural. So procedural is like muscle memory. They do all these practice questions, but what ends up happening is that they do not tap the declarative at all. And so something I encourage you to do for your maths topics is I'd actually encourage you to do teaching sessions. So
Okay.
teach the maths using words, like actually try teaching a 10-year-old about the strategies and techniques that you've learned. That's going to be quite useful. Teaching is one of those strategies that you can do that makes you think about the declarative component of maths a lot more. So how the author thinks about all the keywords and the broader relationships that people usually don't consider. Another one that you want to try doing here as well, it's just going to be mind maps too. Try drawing more maps. And one of the rules that I have here is do not use equations. You're not allowed to use equations. You can only use words only. So if you're doing notes, only use words. If you're learning the quotient rule or chain rule, don't write the actual formula. Only write the keyword and learn more about the theory of that, like the actual keywords that surround that as well. Like, why do we even need to divide functions in the first place? Why does that even make sense? Why do we need to multiply functions? What are some real life applications of these of the maths that I'm learning? And really force yourself to only use words. Don't use any equations. None of that. So that declarative interleaving, I suspect, would actually make it a little bit more enjoyable, also because you're doing psychology as well. Psychology in itself is more declarative in that sense. If you can actually integrate some of those principles, it can make maths a little bit more enjoyable from that interleaving lens. So that's the first thing that we talked about. Second thing, before I give it back to you, there's higher order interleaving, there's mid order interleaving, and there's also lower order interleaving. When people say they find it very boring, as you mentioned, or find it very monotonous, I find it's because they're just doing procedural lower order all the time. Nothing else is happening. They're not doing declarative, nor are they doing mid order or high order. But you've already mentioned that if you try creating practice problems, if you try mixing practice problems, if you try doing like real life case studies, like real life applications of the actual equations, this is where you start to dive into mid or higher order. And this is actually the part that produces more meaningful interleaving. And so you're able to get more in less time. You don't have to increase your study time. So those are two things I feel like could help your retrieval practice. Any questions or thoughts here before I move on to the other parts of what we're talking about?
Okay, so when you say no choices, so operators are not allowed either, right? Like plus, minus,
Operations as well?
multiplication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Don't use any of that yet, right? Because that's declarative. You like I can even quickly show you an example. So tell me like are you doing is it calculus? Like is it pre-calculus right now? Is it calculus one or two? Are you doing integration at the moment? Like what is it right now?
They're done, and currently I have probability and statistics.
Probability and statistics, right? So literally when you actually do a mind map, this is good. I'll actually just show you what it should quickly be. You can only use words, and I'll give you an example. So for example, if we do probability, here we go. I'm just gonna try guessing, what's going on. So here's probability. Probability is like chance, right? That's one of the keywords. Give me a few more keywords. You tell me the keywords.
Mm, the sample space,
Sorry, what was that?
sample space,
Sample space. Yep.
mm, success criteria,
Anything else? Was it, did you say, what did you say? Sorry? Sorry, your mic is cutting out.
criteria.
Can't hear you. Criteria, was it?
Yeah,
So criteria is also one thing there as well. I'll give you a few words
should,
that are coming to my mind too. Like there might be, scatter plot, for example, chant. There might be random variables, right? There might be discrete variables. There might be distributions as well,
yeah,
right? So do you see how there's like keywords? So when you're actually making a map, do not don't do any of like how p of x, and then there's also like different calculations for like a Bernoulli distribution and a binomial distribution. None of that. Don't do that yet. You actually just want to map it out for what it is. And you can use the equations to help you think about the relationships, but fundamentally, you're only using the words. And so that's actually one of the ways that, I mean, if you speak to like a lot of professors that teach maths and a lot of the top mathematics students, they have a good understanding of that declarative component first. So you actually want to try this out too. I haven't made any videos on it yet, but it's something that's in the works, like trying to learn maths using words first and then doing more equations.
yeah, makes sense. Like it puts less pressure on the working memory, so that
Yeah,
I can
that's right.
actually
Like
think.
exactly, right? You're not just memorizing equations and these like esoteric or random looking symbols. You're engaging, you're making sense of the information first, and you're trying to embrace that. So those are the two main changes that would be quite useful for you in my opinion. So if we just had to talk about it, try mixing in more declarative interleaving for mathematics, especially early on, teaching a 10-year-old doing a mind map using words. Second one here is try leaning more towards the higher orders and mid orders of interleaving. The way that you would do this is that you would need to start off with the lower orders. When it comes to maths, you have to start with the basic practice problems. Still do that, but you need to just quickly move on to the harder ones. Move on a lot sooner. Move on a lot quicker. A lot of people, what they do usually is that they do 5 sets of easy problems and then they move on to the difficult problems. But if after set one it's easy enough, just move. You go to the slightly more difficult ones. Skip everything else because all that practice is not going to be as useful as going to that mid order to that high order a lot sooner and a lot quicker.
Yeah, got it.
Sweet. Okay, so that's my recommendations for the retrieval practice side. I feel like you've already got some insight there, and that's going to help you a lot more. And yeah, we could move on to the next part here, which is going to be the balancing and the routine. Before I dive into it, Any specific thoughts on your mind? How do we want to tackle this?
Well, I can talk about what things I have tried. Like, I have tried shifting my sleeping schedule to sleep early and wake up at 5 a.m. I've done
Hmm.
that. I can do that with a nap in the day. So
Mm,
that's one. Another thing that I'm focusing is like getting my studies done in the morning. Then afterwards, when I go to uni, I can focus on work like class stuff and classes and things like that.
I see. How's that going? Is that going good? Shifting it all to the morning, whatnot?
Yes, currently it has some fluctuations like the day that I can't sleep early, like I have some work to do, I have to finish something, and I don't even get
Mm,
time to reflect. That's kind of
mm.
frustrating. But other than that, I think overall this routine would do me good rather than the things I've tried before.
Okay, that's really good. No, that's great. Um, how are you prioritizing your tasks?
Okay, so I think I can do more things there. Like the recent last 2 months were a hectic time for me because there were many club events, and yeah, so I uh, about 8 hours would be gone there, like uni, then club things, then stuff like that. Then I come
Mm,
home exhausted, so
yeah,
I just
yeah,
go to
coming home
sleep.
exhausted. Yeah, yeah.
So morning usually happens what is urgent rather than important. I try to have some important things embedded, like I like to read in my free time and like
Mhm.
self improvement stuff. But other than
Yeah.
that, haven't done much prioritizing lately.
I see, I see. Yeah, that's important to eventually talk about here. Something that you mentioned, which is everyone relates to, feeling very tired when you come back. When you actually come back from work, which is reasonable, very, very reasonable. What are you usually doing in that time? Are you ready to just sleep? Is it already the end of the day? You just want to spend time with, family or just yourself? Or do you want to do more in that time?
Well, depends on the context. Like if
Yeah.
I have some, I usually like to chat with someone or talk with family. That helps. Or other
Mm,
winding down activities like I would do a simple puzzle solving or things like that, or do some journaling. And
okay.
when I'm really exhausted, I would maybe fall asleep listening to something.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. Something that you mentioned a bit earlier on. Yeah. So there's a few things here. I already feel like you're thinking about it. So something that I actually want to highlight before I move into everything else. I'll do this in an orange color here. Is the self-regulation that's going on, which is what you're doing. What this means, self-regulation, very easily, you can just split it into three things. Number one, you set a goal. Number two, you monitor. And number three, you adjust. So if you actually take a look at the literature and how people talk about self-regulation, it's these three things. So you set your goal, like what do you want to do? You monitor, you see how you're achieving that goal, and you adjust. It's like, well, what do I need to change? And so you're already doing that here where, for example, you might set the goal where you want to balance more things in the day or get more studies done. And so that's the goal, more study, and you might just set the process, which is, well, let me try waking up in the morning, let me see what that does. And so you might do 5 a.m. and you might monitor, am I waking up at 5 a.m.? If the answer is yes, that's great. You might then fix the next problem. You might try identifying the next problem that you need to work on. But if the answer is you're not waking up at 5 a.m., then we'd have to adjust the goal, because the goal is no longer about waking up at 5 a.m. The goal might be you need to sleep at 9 p.m. because you're procrastinating a lot during nighttime. And so that becomes your next goal, procrastination. And then you try setting another experiment for that. How can you actually tackle that? So the reason I mention that is because you're already doing that. Like you're already engaging in self-regulation because you've already created experiments for yourself. So this is a form of self-regulation, waking up early in the morning. This is another form of self-regulation, creating more problems, different types of problems for your retrieval practice. You've already identified that. But there's some few things here as well. I'm gonna lean on you a little bit more. Which one do you feel like would be the most useful to talk about? Would it be task management, prioritizing your tasks? Would it be time management, putting your tasks into your actual schedule? Or would it be energy management for you, where you try figuring out how you can do more when you're tired?
I'm going to lean on a little on task management. The thing happens like I have my own schedule, or I have my things to do. But if someone asks for help, usually I just bust my schedule and help someone. So that's the thing.
Yeah, that's again, you're being a great friend. So like obviously like if you help people, that's good. But there's a certain point where like that prioritization needs to be a bit tighter as well for sure. How are you doing this right now? Are you using any strategies? It seems like you're already familiar with the Eisenhower's matrix. You're talking about importance and urgency.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I'm not consistent with using it. That's
Okay.
one thing.
So that consistent of using it. When's the last time you've used it?
Mm, Probably 2 months ago.
Yeah, I would I would actually encourage you to run one again because 2 months might be enough time for your priorities to slightly change and for you to understand you might have like a more matured understanding of where you need to go. So that's actually what I encourage you to do. Collect all your tasks. So
Mm,
just make like a big list of exactly what you need to do and then run them through the Eisenhower's matrix. Do you want a breakdown of the Eisenhower's matrix and like the quadrants, or do you already feel like you kind of already know that?
Quick question, like when I select my tasks, do I have a filter or small, big, all of the tasks, like hundreds of tasks?
Good question. Try collecting all of them. Like you'll find that your brain, I mean, you only collect tasks that make sense to you. For example, I don't think you're going to collect the task. I want to go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest and become a Sherpa. Like that's not. I don't think that's your brain is already like prioritized. It already has a filter, so you don't have to apply another filter yet. So collect all your tasks. Anything that's related to life, anything that's related to you're working with the clubs as well. If there's anything with club two, if there's anything with university applications or job applications, write them down. And then Eisenhower's matrix, what you want to do is you've got the four quadrants. So we've got, if I just had to draw that here, let me just draw that. You've got important and you've got not important. And then you've got, did I draw it correctly? No, wait, let me get this. So you've got your four here. You've got important and urgent. You've got important and not urgent. Here we go. And you've got urgent and what am I? So my brain is a bit laggy. So it's focus here. That's a quadrant. We've got delete here.
Mm,
And delete here is not important and not urgent. That's delete. Focus is important and urgent. Here we go. And then schedule, if I can spell correctly, schedule is important, not urgent. And then finally, batch or delegate is urgent, not important. So I'll actually just go through all of those. So we've got important, urgent, which is you want to focus on that.
yeah,
You've then got schedule, which is important, not urgent. You want to schedule those. You want to make sure that is there. And then you've got not important, but urgent, which is what you want to batch. And then you've got delete. So I'll give you a few examples, but there's a third thing here, which is a bit strange. Once you've done this process, you should start feeling bad. Okay, I'll tell you
yeah,
why. The reason you want to feel bad is because of this. This is like a conclusion we've come to in our coaching practice. Good prioritization feels bad. Why? Because you will create a list of things that you want to do. Maybe there's books on psychology that you really want to read. Maybe there's some course online that you've been wanting to do for a very long time. Maybe there's like some some data science stuff or a project that you're working on or a side business with a friend, but your exams are coming up. And so what you need to do is you need to prioritize mathematics and industrial engineering over the business, over psychology, because that's just how task prioritization is. And it feels bad because you have to cut those things. On the other hand, bad prioritization feels good. So this is actually what you don't want. A lot of people, they fit many things into their schedule. And so they're like, oh, I'm going to fit my business here, I'm going to do my studies, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do all of that stuff. But then they don't end up doing it. It's the end of the day, they don't end up doing the things that they mentioned or tried prioritizing because, again, they prioritize too many things. There's too many things on their plate, but they still don't feel that weight of bad prioritization. It still feels good. It's like productive procrastination. It's like this illusion of management. So that's why if you prioritize well, you should feel bad. It's like, oh man, I really had to cut that. I don't like that. I didn't like cutting that. So I'll give you a few examples before I give it back to you. One of the examples here is for something that you want to focus on. It might be uh, it might be just like the exam that's coming up soon. You might have an exam in 3 weeks, and it's very important because how do we define importance? Let me actually explain that to you. And how do we define urgency? That's actually going to be quite important. So importance is, what's the consequence of failure? You always want to think about the consequence of failure. That's what importance is. You don't want to do it on intuition. Just ask yourself, if I fail, if I don't do this task, what happens? Urgency is, well, when is it due? Right? So if we just ask
Okay.
those two questions, we can always figure out if something's important or not important, or something is urgent or not urgent. So for example, exam, the reason it's important, well, what's the consequence of failure if we fail the exam? I mean, there's quite a few consequences. In Australia anyway, if you enroll for a unit and you fail the unit, you have to pay again. You have to pay $1,000 again for the unit. So you don't want to fail the exam. Sometimes your graduation gets delayed. You don't want to fail an exam. Maybe you want to get a good, in your situation, you want to get a good GPA. And so if you don't do well on this exam and it reduces your GPA, well, that's bad. I mean, we just failed, right? And now we got to, so the urgency, so the consequence of failure is quite high. And so therefore, this would be an important task. And then we go for urgency. When is it due, right? If it's happening very soon, then it's more urgent. But if it's happening in a year, it's less urgent, depending on the exam. Because more exams, there are certain exams that you spend years preparing for, right? So that's a breakdown of Eisenhower's matrix. Any thoughts on how this is right now? Any questions before we dive into a few more examples?
Yeah, I think this would be useful. And for the video, I have to do a little experiment. Like I usually underestimate stuff, like how much time it takes. So the overestimation would be a thing to get used to.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. The scheduling is going to be this is the part that's tricky. So, for me, like for example, when it comes to something like scheduling, obviously gym is very important, but not urgent. Like if I don't go gym today, no one's gonna be like, Tanjir, why did you not exercise? Right? No one's but the failure of consequence over time, the consequence of failure over time is that you start to potentially become there's like health detriment if you don't exercise enough, right? You start to potentially feel a bit more fatigued. You might gain weight in a bad way. You might lose muscle. You just feel bad overall, right? So that's one of the consequences. Obviously, socializing is really good here too. So making sure that you take care of yourself. It's not urgent, but you still got to do it at times, right? For my schedule as well, like making sure that I regularly attend mosque or even just keep up with Quran as well. Very important. Like I need to do that. But it's not urgent. No one's gonna slap me and be like, why are you not doing it? When I was younger, yes, but now they don't. Right. And so I need to find like a place to schedule it and make it like in my schedule. So these are things that would be like important, very, very important, but not urgent because no one's breathing down my neck. And this is the hard part. You have to actually schedule it. You have to find ways to make it so it's like easy to actually fit in to your calendar and fits in with your schedule as well. Right. Yeah. Any thoughts here before we move on?
Mm. I think we are good to go. Like I have to actually apply it to think about what's gonna go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's for you here. It's just going to be creating that list, run the Eisenhower matrix, and then you'll feel a little bit bad because maybe there's a few things that you need to, um, cut. And then obviously the next step here is you'd actually just put this, like you go put this in your calendar. So open up your calendar and make things happen. And then you apply that self-regulation to this whole thing. So when you did your calendar, how often did you follow it? Was it useful? Like, did you fail in any places? Did you procrastinate? How do you need to manage that? That's all that self-regulation layer that occurs. Okay, so we got our final thing here, and we've just got.
Yeah. Uh, about the last part, how much time would it take for a session to do Eisenhower matrix application?
Sorry.
Mm, I was wondering how much time it normally takes to, collect all my tasks and do the four parts like desk
Ah,
and like set up
yeah, that's
that.
that's yeah, that's really good. Like, I don't think it'd take you more than. I mean, you don't want to collect your tasks for too long. You might want to just collect your tasks for the coming week or coming 2 weeks. In my opinion, that shouldn't take you too long. Maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
1 hour. Yeah.
Okay.
So it won't take too long from that angle. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Anything? So we're just going to dive here, which is the data science and routine. What are we talking about for the routine? I think very similar, right?
Yeah, I think I can apply the first one. So here I really have to prioritize if my academics are first or this thing, like the
Yeah.
data science first.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes. That's right.
so I can alternate between them at days. Like one day
Yeah.
this is
That's
my
right. You
priority.
can. You can. You definitely can. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. Because the consequence of failure, you just want to consider that. Maybe, like, eventually, if you get to a point where you're so efficient and you can manage both of them, that's great. That's really good.
yeah. I'm trying to do the data science part with a friend, and it just so happens sometimes that he cancels and I'm the one suffering.
Yeah, yeah. So in that situation, obviously it's good to work with your friend, but if you can do it alone as well, that's really good. And then every time you meet up with your friend, you're getting ahead. Right? You're the one that's growing more, and you can teach him, and you can use those as like interleaving strategies. Yeah.
I think we can dive a little more meta here. Data science is a part of the career trajectory that I can take. Like there are many possible
Mm,
paths, and I'm usually confused like where to go. I do something here, then something other there, and then another
mm,
place, but usually settle in one thing.
mm. So we're starting to dive into the later part of the conversation here, which is just going to be the career path, right? The career trajectory. Tell me more, like, what are you thinking about when it comes to what you want to do in the future?
Well, I've been wondering, I want to my subject is actually industrial and production engineering. So I want to
Mm,
focus on the industrial part, namely the supply chain part, or like there are many processes to building systems there, like Six Sigma, Lean,
mm,
and things like that. I'm
mm,
wondering about going into consultancy business type of thing.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. And like, to be honest, this is the part of the conversation where I don't actually have as much insight, obviously, because I kind of just have more expertise in learning science itself and um, all the components around it. But I'm happy to share a few thoughts that could help here. I would have to lean on you a little bit more. Like, what's your strategy? What do you, because you mentioned that you're trying to lean towards the industrial part a little bit more. Do you have applications coming up soon? Do you have internships coming up soon? Tell me more about like what's going to happen these next few months or years.
Well, the thing happens I live in Bangladesh in Rajshahi, so compared to the capital Dhaka, there are less opportunities for internships. So I have an
Mm,
industrial attachment 1 year later for 1 month, and other than that, I have thesis in my last year. But
mm,
I can't really do offline internships now. I can do remote ones, and
mm,
that's one disadvantage. Currently, I'm focusing on cloud activities like I can show a position like executive, senior executive, things like that. That would add to
mm,
my resume. Other than that, I want to do some projects. So for that, I'm I want to learn science properly so I can have a portfolio.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. I mean, you're thinking about it quite well. I just want to understand, like, do you have like a question, like a main question here for me to kind of comment on?
Okay.
Any questions that you have? Yeah.
Yeah, like if I see my alumni like where they are, they are in multiple things. Like I want a framework to decide which career path
Mm,
to actually take. Like I've seen your video like where you actually go talk about actually going into the stuff like having some real world exposure before deciding where to actually commit
mm,
to. I think mm, I would like some other tips than that. Like
mm,
what can I add this?
I see, I see. Yeah. Yeah, like again, I'm quite limited in my own expertise in terms of career path per se. But if I had to share some thoughts, obviously everything that we talked about so far in terms of making sure that your grades are good and that you're trying to get as best as you can there is going to be quite important. But for career path, it does go back to also quite a few frameworks. There's lots of frameworks. There's two that I'll talk about um, that would be useful for you to research as well in case you want to actually learn more about it. The first one here is Cal Newport. So Cal Newport, he has a book called "So Good They Cannot Ignore You." Yeah, so he's also made the work. He's also made the book Deep Work. But what he talks about in "So Good That They Can't Ignore You," it's um, they they do research on. So I can kind of explain it. I can summarize what they found, but I still believe it's very useful for you to just read into that book. What they did was they tried finding who who enjoys their work the most. Is it
Yeah.
doctors? Is it engineers? Is it pilots? Like who enjoys the work the most? And certain people had certain theories. Maybe they had the theory that if you get paid more, you enjoy it more. If you had to do more education to get there, you enjoy it more. There's many theories that happened. But what they actually ended up doing is instead of asking, these very, very educated people like doctors, surgeons, lawyers, engineers, teachers, these questions, from what I remember, they actually went to a college in the United States and they went to, how there's like the admissions board, the people that read your application and do the emails and the staff admin? They went there and they wanted to ask them how much you enjoy your job. And the reason it was strange is because you don't, when you think about like happiness in a job, you don't think about people doing emails all day or people sitting on a desk like, like who are doing college admissions for young kids. Like you don't think about them being happy. But what they actually ended up finding, like, is that they actually enjoy their jobs a lot. They enjoy their jobs a lot more sometimes compared to high paying business people, doctors and lawyers and whatnot. And the reason why they enjoyed their jobs more was because they were good at their jobs. It's not because they
Okay.
liked the actual job itself, but they were very, very good at their job. They had a very high level of skill. And the reason I share this all with you, and again, it's paraphrasing, I probably forgot a lot of the actual story, is because when it comes to career trajectory, a lot of people try flipping it. They try asking, what do you like? And then pick a career. But you'll actually see what Cal Newport talks about. He talks about do something, get really good at it, and then see if you like it. Because if you're good at it, you'll probably like it a bit more compared to not liking it. So and that's where experience actually comes into play and learning more about the actual field itself. The way that I recommend people doing it is you should actually start like a blog or a YouTube channel talking about that specific thing. So I mean, my whole YouTube channel is like an experiment. I love it. I get to talk about productivity. I get to talk about learning psychology. I get to talk about time management. Sometimes I'll do like a different type of video, and it gives me more clarity and insight into the types of topics that I feel like I'm getting better at. It gives me an opportunity to get better and it gives me a platform to then share this information with other people too. So if there's a practical kind of tip I can give you as well, pick a platform, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's YouTube, whether that's a blog type of post. And I'd actually encourage you to start writing a little bit more about industrial engineering. Write a little bit more about something interesting that you read over the weekend. Maybe there's a club in university that's related to data science or psychology or whatever it is. Start actually writing and producing content. Become like a content creator, because that's going to be one of the easiest things that you can do that benefits your career. It expands your network as well. It expands your digital footprint, and it also gives you the opportunity to live like a similar thing that you would had you been working in that field. If you're working in that field, you'd have to probably produce something anyway. Um, yeah. So if I had to go on a very unpolished brain dump, that's what comes to my mind. Any thoughts on that? Any questions from that lens? Again, not like my thing. All right.
Yeah, that summary helps. Like, I actually did a read of that book so good that they can help you, but I think I missed some of the gems. So I'm definitely gonna give it another read or look
Yeah.
at the that I
So
find
I'll actually
important.
I'll write that down here. So like, yeah, just like so good. They cannot ignore you. And that was by Cal Newport. Right. Yeah. All right. Nice. The second material that you can try taking a look at is the Ikigai framework. Are you familiar with
Yeah,
this one?
yeah,
So this one's really good as well. I don't know much about it, to be honest. I just remember Dr. Justin Sung, he's made a video on it, and he kind of covers a few principles that you can use to get there. But for me, I actually like to lean on just the framework that Cal Newport gives, plus doing a little bit of a personal brand on the side as a way to just give you a door into just documenting a few things, talking about them, getting familiar with what you like. Hey, you might find that you like psychology more, right? Like when you do all this writing, and that might
yeah.
open up a window or an opportunity for you to do something there.
Yeah, reducing the activation energy there would be helpful. Like, I've thought about starting a blog or doing YouTube videos, but I usually don't publish. Like, I have some unlisted videos, and that's
That's really good. Hey, you've already got unlisted videos. I mean, for me, like, I'd investigate. Why didn't you publish?
yeah, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if it's helpful enough or just me ranting about things.
Yeah, no, that's just publish. I'd actually encourage you to publish. Try thinking about try thinking about your younger self, right? Or try thinking about even just documenting your thoughts and just being someone and just reflecting. If I can provide you a little bit more insight, again, not my expertise. I'm just telling you what I kind of already know. There's three ways you can position yourself on YouTube or even just on social media. The first one is you become an expert, like you're really, really good at something and you talk about it. The second one is that you're an enthusiast, you like it, but you also know you're not the expert. And the third one is learner. So you are learning and you're not an expert, you're just a student, you're learning everything. I like to position myself as an enthusiast. Like I am building mastery slowly on learning science, but I'm not like an expert. Like you take a look at Benjamin Key, Dr. Justin Sung, like these guys are experts. Ultra Learning, Scott Young, like they spent a very long time getting very good at their craft. And that's the reason they're authors. They do research, they publish videos at a large scale. They're experts. I'm like an enthusiast. I like to be in between the two and I like to even show that I'm still learning. And the third category was, learner. Like if you are learning something, you're just being curious, you might share your thoughts and reflections. Usually the thought of like it not being useful comes when people who do not have deep expertise try being experts. So if I had to kind of give you any quick feedback, I would actually shift your persona. And again, I don't know enough, right? This is just me kind of theorizing. Make your videos more reflections. Make it saying, hey, I'm Rizwan. I tried this out. Here's what I learned. Here's what I think was useful. Here are my thoughts and opinions. And yeah, this is what I tried. as opposed to telling people what to do. Because again, like you haven't developed that mastery yet, and eventually, slowly, you will. So that's what I can encourage for you to do, which could help you overcome that barrier. Again, there's many things, right? It relates to mindset as well, just being comfortable with your internet presence too, which is a big thing as well. But yeah, that's if I had to quickly recommend anything, that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, and I see the importance of the enthusiasts out there like you, like your content helping us. Like there's one theory part, like the you say the big guys, and there's the application part where a little hand to hand. So like where you do 1 hour videos, those help a lot.
Mm, yeah, yeah. That's and I'm quite lucky because I do have students and professionals who are learning under me, so I'm quite fortunate to be in that position. And obviously, I get a lot of training from the team and Dr. Justin Sung as well. So I'm slowly becoming an expert. I'm definitely a lot of years away from that. I wouldn't call myself that at all. But yeah, like that puts me in that position where I get to learn. And so for you, it might be something similar. Like you might make videos of you learning data science or of you learning psychology. And you want to share that and have a platform there. Yeah, and it actually acts as a form of interleaving. You get to interleave through your YouTube videos, and so that's fun. I also like to joke with the team. I'm like, hey, I'm doing my interleaving, and they're like, okay, you're making a YouTube video. I'm like, yep, I'm making a YouTube video. Yeah, and it's two benefits in one.
Yeah. So we have about 4 minutes left. Uh, I'll
Yes.
just want some quick suggestions like how can I structure my data science journey because I'm quite in the beginner stage.
Yeah. So, what are you learning data science for?
So the thing about is in industrial engineering there's a like lot of focus with optimization and efficiency. So for that basically.
Mm, mm. So that's really good. Learn your like number one, always define your retrieval needs. So you just talked about industrial engineering being an application. That's what you might make videos on. You might or content on. You might make content on something like data science, and you actually might make a content. So you actually might make content which is like, hey, my name is Rezwan. I'm studying industrial engineering, and I'm learning more about how to apply AI and data science into industrial engineering. And so what I'm doing is I'm going through this 30 video course, and I'm just going to try my best to learn the course. And hey, I just want to use this YouTube channel or this LinkedIn post as a way to update you all on me learning more about this. So that might be like a goal that you have. And in terms of how to actually kind of approach it, I mean, go through the content, develop like a strong declarative understanding of everything. I have a video which is called it's like the cramming video, how to learn online courses 10x faster. I actually have that
Yeah,
video. So what I would personally do is I'd cram that data science, like the whole thing, as much as I can, and I create this map, this declarative map that we talked about here, down here. Um, where is it? Like a declarative map. That way, I have like a scope and an understanding of it. So if you need to review that video, I'd encourage you to do it. I did it on an online It's Yale's well-being program. I remember doing it on there. So I'd apply
yeah,
something similar for data science. Yep.
yeah. I remember you doing the video.
Yeah. So I'd do something similar for the data science course that you're doing. And then I would get into procedural practice as soon as I can. I would encourage you to do a project. So actually work on an app or work on a project or work on making something because data science is useful for that situation. And if you want that double benefit, I would then try posting it online and sharing it online in terms of the small experiments. And you might do like a day one of 30, day two of 30, day three of 30. And you might have that as a way to keep yourself accountable if you want a routine.
Yeah, got it. Well,
Gives
yeah,
me good ideas as well. Like I might try doing something in the future. I'm not sure if I'll get like a lot of time, but I do want to do something where I sit down, learn a topic, and record somewhat every day or create like a series about it. Again, task prioritization, right? I have to say no to that because I have so many other things going on. But yeah, those are my thoughts. So we have to summarize. I'll summarize everything for you so far because we are just wrapping up the conversation. We talked about a lot. There's many moving parts. We talked about We talked about like the now and future. I feel like it splits into that. Now it's talking about exam confidence, trying to make sure that your retrieval practice is a bit more. Try making it a bit more engaging and meaningful. That should help you make it less monotonous and more consistent. We then talked about balancing certain things. We talked about the task management process you can use in Eisenhower's matrix here as well, and cutting certain things too, and trying to prioritize using the importance and urgency. And finally, we then touched on career path. Again, I don't really have a lot of insight on that. That's just my personal opinions and thoughts. But that was talking about Cal Newport, so good they can't ignore you, starting a personal brand as well, just having a place where you can document your thoughts too. It can help you create a routine as well if you want to do a weekly update on YouTube or on LinkedIn, and yeah, having that as a place to kind of move forward. But yeah, that's a summary of the session.